Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thanks for joining us today for the webinar on the Summon and 360 and Entoda Services Roadmaps. I'm Brent Cook, as Scott mentioned, the Director of Product Management for Summon. Today we're joined by Amy Pemble, who's the Director of Product Management for Entoda and 360 Services. We've got a lot to talk about today on our agenda. First, we'll go through the Summon roadmap. We'll review what's there and what you can expect. We'll do the same for the 360 and Entoda Services roadmap. Take a little bit of time to talk about upcoming webinars that we have and ways that you can be involved in the community for Summon and ways that you contributed in 2021, so I think it's always important to highlight that. We'll talk a little bit about the support and, portal and chat. That was changed. We had some updates to that at the end of last year, and we just want to review that for a moment with you. And then finally, as Scott mentioned, we will have some time for questions. So please be sure to post your questions in the chat or the Q&A module. So let's start off first by talking a little bit about the Summon 2022 roadmap. I'm really excited about what we have to share with you today. First, I want to run through the planned release dates and preview environment timelines. February is already completed. That release went live on February 2nd, and I'll review what was in that release. In May, we have May 11th will be the release date. That's a week after the first Wednesday of the month. Usually we do releases on the first Wednesday of the month, but traditionally for May, we shift it back a little bit for ELUNA. The preview for that release will start on April 27th. August 3rd, we also have a quarterly release. We will be doing some user interface changes similar to what we did in December. So for now, I'm listing the preview environment starting July 20th, which is 2 weeks prior to that, but we will likely extend that to a longer preview as we did for the December release. I'll keep you posted on that in upcoming quarterly webinars and, of course, through communications on the listserv. And then our final quarterly release for the year is on November 2nd, with the preview beginning on October 19th. On months where we don't have quarterly releases, we do have maintenance releases. Those are usually the first Wednesday of all other months. We may skip one if there's no maintenance work to be done or no features that need to be updated. The things to note about the maintenance releases are that there's no preview period. For the most part, those releases don't contain any customer or patron-facing functionality. A lot of times it's maintenance in the background or addressing specific needs for specific institutions. So usually there's not release notes associated with these maintenance releases as well. There are exceptions, though. Occasionally we will do an update that includes something that is customer or patron-facing, and if that's the case, then we will add that to the release note page in the Knowledge Center, and I'll send out the notification to the listserv. So here's the Summon roadmap at a glance for 2022, broken into the things we'll do in the first half and the second half of the year. Again, you can see already some of the things that have been completed in the February release, including some improvements around the Summon UI refresh that we had as part of the December 2021 release. We've already added the ability to exclude subject headings. I'll talk about that in a moment. For the May release, we have some improvements for CR via Summon planned and custom citation styles planned as well. We're also in the process of finalizing the features for inclusion from the new enhancement request system, or NERS voting that you did at the end of last year. I am working, and Amy is working with the working group, the NERS working group, to finalize those. And as we get that final list approved, we will add that to the roadmap as well. And you'll be able to see updates on the Knowledge Center article, and of course, we'll update in future webinars as well. But I'll give you a brief preview of what the top things are there and what might be coming on the roadmap as part of that NERS voting. Second half of the year, we're going to continue that user interface refresh and work on some areas that we didn't get the chance to improve in December. In particular, the quick view or preview pane that we have will be part of that. The Summon UI refresh on the results page. We'll look at some refinements that you recommended after the December release that we weren't able to do as part of the February update. And then we're going to take some time to work on the advanced search and improve that. And again, you'll see a lot of NERS features in the second half as well. We've got a lot of excellent quality features coming out of that process. When going throughout the year is data quality improvements, improvements to analytics, and accessibility. And I'll dive into those a little bit and let you know what's happening there. But basically, these are items that always deserve our attention and we continually work on throughout the year. So first, let's talk a little bit about the user experience and what some of the changes to the user interface you can expect this year. Again, a lot of these things we'll do in the August release. We did just do some results page refinements in the February release, and I'll talk a little bit about that. We've got some exciting things planned for the preview pane, and I'll show a mock-up of what that might look like as well for the advanced search. I'll show you that in a moment, and custom citation styles. So first, I'll take a moment to talk about some of the roadmap items we did for February. We had a lot of great improvements in the December release last year. There were a few things we needed to brush up on or polish a little bit. There were some labels and text that were missing in the translations tab, so you could not change it from the default text. That has been addressed, and a variety of values for new labels have been added to the translations tab in the admin console, including taking the X that we added for multiple copies. Now that you can show multiple copies or multiple links for something. In December, we had that set up so that it would say things like 5X copies are available. We changed that X to copies, and it's now in the translations tab, so you can rename it to whatever you'd like. We also did the same for some of the Alma clients. There was some default text that said Alma provider. We've changed that to library catalog. And again, if you don't prefer library catalog or you think something else is better, you can customize that under the translations tab in the admin console. And then finally, some of you have some facet values that are translated in the facet pane itself. Those are unique to individual institutions. Someone's facet pane was not recognizing those. That has been addressed, and those should appear in the facet pane now as well. We also did a variety of refinements to the overall look and feel. We've added some new elements like that summary panel up at the top of the facet pane. You can now customize the colors that are in that area, the background, the text itself, the button, as well as the highlighted information underneath each individual facet, like the total number of facet values you selected or selected to exclude, and the checks box. You can now change those colors and the background hover color as well. All of those are found in the admin console. We've also added the ability to turn on or off the more links option that we added as part of show all links that you'll find now as part of this button over here on the right-hand side. Previously, you could just set that to one link and that would turn off the button. That was unclear for some folks and a bit confusing, so we've added this toggle to make it simpler. We also did some work to address some inconsistency with the display of the availability green dot. Folks like that highlight to be able to draw people's attention to various places where you can access the content. However, on launch, we had the green dot in two areas, and it was in the upper right-hand corner with the peer-reviewed and open access icon, as well as on the button. We've now consolidated that so it's in one spot. And then finally, for those who are viewing Summon on their mobile devices, if you were in a site that does not use Topic Explorer, it has that turned off. On the mobile site, there was a bug where the Expand Topic Explorer text that shows up there at the top of the results would appear even if you had Topic Explorer disabled for your site. When you clicked on it, it would just change that to Collapse Topic Explorer. Again, it shouldn't be showing up if Topic Explorer is disabled. We've now fixed that. In August of this year, we plan to do some more improvements. Again, when we did all of our user testing last year for this results page, we identified a lot of areas for improvement and ways we could better integrate and rely on people's understanding of how web pages work to provide a better user experience. For example, if you look right now with the preview pane, it's a link that says preview, and if you click on that, it expands the results or the information beneath each result. We've now modified that to use an icon that shows up on the thumbnail when you hover over it. It says quick look and has a magnifying glass. A lot of e-commerce and other content sites have trained users that this is the way to find more information about a piece of content. So we are relying on that to encourage them to find out more. And if they click on that icon, you'll get an overlay. And again, I should mention, these are mock-ups. We will be doing some more testing, and of course, during the development phase, there may be some changes to how this looks, but this gives you an idea of what that new visual placement will look like. It will be an overlay, and if you notice at the top, there's the ability to scroll from one result to the next in order to view that preview information without having to go back to the results. all the functionality that will be included in the preview pane and the modifications we do here will be based on the effort and scope that it takes to do that. But ultimately, we're taking a look at how we can better display that information and make it easier to access for the user. Another thing that we're looking at doing in the second half of 2022 is improving the advanced search functionality. When we did our testing last year with users to see how well they knew the Summon interface and how much they used, the advanced search was an overlooked resource there. A lot of folks thought it would be too much for them, or they did not see the link as something to access to help them with their search. So we've done a few changes to help out with that. One thing we're proposing is kind of a secondary advanced search option. As you can already see indicated by the design change we made in December, on the right-hand side of the search bar, you have the options label with a down arrow that indicates some type of overlay will come out from that. Currently, if you click on that options, it will take you to a full advanced search page. What we found in our usability testing was that people would like a subset of those advanced searches and options to show up to make it easier for them to quickly modify top used items on the advanced search page. So after we make these changes, we'll have some type of overlay like this. Again, this is a mock-up, so the functionality or the options that show up on this page may vary in what we implement when we get to this feature, but it just gives you an option of how we can kind of simplify that overall advanced search page and make it easier and more accessible for more users. For your power users that still want that advanced search page, they will be able to access that using the link on the lower right-hand corner. So you'll be able to click on that and go to the advanced search page. And we're taking a look at how to improve that page as well. So you should see a new design for that that will do things like currently for a lot of the options at the bottom of the screen, there is a small window with 4 options shown at a time that you can scroll through. We've gotten feedback that that interaction can be better. So we'll be making changes like that on the advanced search page as well. We're also adding the ability to create your own custom citation styles. One of the challenges that we always have around keeping up with citation styles is making sure we have the most recent style out there, and then even when we do have the most recent style out there, making sure that it meets your specific needs, because some institutions have different interpretations of the various formats or have modifications that they've done for a variety of reasons for their specific needs. So once this feature is implemented, and again, this will be in the May release, it'll be done in the first half of this year, you'll be able to create one based on existing templates that match your institution's needs, so taking those same fields and modifying them if you'd like, or creating one entirely your own. So perhaps it's a style that we haven't supported in the past, or something that we are working on eventually adding, but you need it now. So this will give you, hopefully, the most flexibility to have citation styles mirror your needs and the needs of your patrons. Next, I want to talk about some of the things we're doing to improve the openness of Summon and the integration with that. Something I want to note about these two features, they are focused on improvements to the Sierra via Summon offering that we started last year. But even if you're not a Sierra customer, the benefits that you'll get from this is we are laying groundwork for integration with other systems. In particular, we are adding SAML support. Last year, when we launched Sierra via Summon, we started with just CAS for the authentication option. After this feature is done, we will support both CAS and SAML. And SAML is a widely used standard. We are building this while we're validating that it works with Sierra. We're building the actual API so that it should work with any SAML system that follows the SAML format. And so, in other words, this is the first step in additional improvements for authentication that go beyond Sierra, with Sierra being the first candidate to connect via SAML. Last year, we also launched a My Library card page for Sierra via Summon customers. This year, we will improve that. Currently, you can offer a variety of functionality there, including the ability to see what you have checked out, fines and fees, requests you may have open, and the ability to cancel those requests, and a variety of other functionality. In the first half of this year, we're looking at improving that, adding some more functionality that we can access via the Sierra API, as well as putting more controls in for you to customize this. If you don't offer reading history, for example, to your patrons, you could remove that from the My Library card if appropriate. We were also doing a variety of work on search and ranking, in addition to continually looking at the relevance algorithm and taking feedback that we get from you, from searches that aren't working quite right, or other information you provide for us. In addition to that ongoing effort, a couple of things that we're doing specifically is adding the ability to block display of specific subject headings by institution, and working on the default search so that you can decide whether to include or exclude full text matches. So the ability to block the display of subject headings was added as part of the February release, so that's already out there. Basically, this gives you the ability to block offensive terms in the subject term facet. So what that means is if there are specific subject terms, especially sort of older archival types of subject terms that are no longer appropriate, they can show up as a subject term in the facet pane. Our concern with that is anything that shows up in the user interface, it looks like an element of the user interface, such as values in that facet pane or constructions of the screen itself. All of those things that will give the offensive term more weight because it seems like it's being supported by the institution and the software itself. So now you'll have the ability for your institution to manage your own specific block list. That the subject terms you may want to block will certainly vary from region to region and institution to institution. This puts the power in your hands to be able to do that. Something else to note is we're not editing or censoring this text. We're just providing the ability to determine whether or not it shows up in the subject term facet. The text is still included in the record. It's still indexed. It's still used for relevance. If someone happens to be searching for an offensive term for whatever reason, perhaps you're doing a study of how the term was used throughout history, that will still be possible, and you'll still be able to access that content and use those terms for relevance. But again, we won't be, or providing the ability to remove that from the facet section because that does look like it's supported by the institution. So you'll find the controls for that under settings, subject term. You just simply enter the subject terms into that big white box you can see on the right-hand side, separate them by a comma, hit save, and those will be blocked for display in your facet. Also in the first half of the year, we're going to launch a new feature for default searches. Currently, default searches for Summon include a search of full text. So not only do we look at the titles, the authors, all those other fields, and we also take a look at any full text associated with the record and use that for relevance and display of records. The challenge with that is that sometimes the text matches in the full text aren't as relevant as ones in the other fields. So by being able to choose whether you'd like to start with the full text search enabled or choose the full text excluded, you can change the way that the basic search responds. So the two main things to note there is that if you start off searching excluding the full text matches, it's going to reduce the long tail of results in your initial search. So for most users, they know what they're looking for or the types of things they're looking for, and keying off of things like the author or the title field is the best way to go. They'll get a little less noise if you exclude that full text match upon your initial search. It also speeds up the site response time significantly. If someone decides they do want to search for the term in full text, you will have the ability to have that added to the refine your search area at the top of the facet. And as you can see there in the screen grab, you'll be able to check include matches in full text. Of course, that label will be translatable, so you can change it to whatever you'd like. But overall, we think this will improve performance, improve relevance, while keeping the power of searching within the full text as part of the Summon experience. The default will be to have full text searches excluded by default, and then you need to add that in later. If you'd like to change that default, you can. But again, we think that you'll be pleasantly surprised when you see how this new response works. We're also doing some improvements to linking to full text. This is a continuation of a NERS item from 2021, the Show All Links option. We are now adding in the ability to expose OpenURLs as part of the Show All Links option. So what that means is you'll be able to go in for your institution and indicate whether or not you'd like OpenURL links included in that dropdown. There will be some text associated with it. The default text is link resolver. This is customizable by institution though, so if you have some other way that you'd like to identify those open link URLs, you can change that text as well. And they will show up, as you can see here on the right-hand side, under the more options if you click on that. And this is configurable by institution. A few other things I just want to touch on at a high level. We continually work on things like data quality and rights management. We are currently working with the Central Discovery Index, or CDI team, to improve the rights processing. We want to make sure that it's working better and faster than before. I don't have a specific date for this. Both of these features, or both of these efforts, are ones that don't have a single point where we will flip on a switch and start these features up. Instead, as we change these various processes, we will add a portion of the Summit community onto these processes to test it out, make sure it's performing well in a smaller environment, and then expand that to include everyone. I'll be sure to communicate with you and let you know when we're doing this type of performance testing, what that might look like, and what you can expect for next steps. I'll tell you all about that in future webinars, and also communicate via the listserv to keep you posted. We're also taking a look at how to improve how we are merging records. This is something that we're, again, continually looking at, like relevance. Now that we have over 4 billion records in the index, it's always a challenge to make sure everything is being deduplicated as best we possibly can, and that's some of the things that we're looking at for this year. And then finally, as I mentioned before, we do think about accessibility and analytics all the time. For accessibility, we're going through right now and re-evaluating to make sure that everything that we have on the user interface is compliant with the current specs for WCAG compliance, and also testing and planning for new features that we have to make sure that anything we implement will be as accessible to everyone as it possibly can be. We also know that when we do our testing internally and when we do our design work, it's difficult to cover every single scenario that's out there. So anytime we get feedback from you or your patrons around accessibility, we fold that into the development process as quickly as possible. And then finally, for the Summit roadmap for 2022, I want to highlight some of the things that might make it onto the roadmap for this year. I am currently working with the IGELU and ELUNA New Enhancement Request System Working Group, or the NERS Working Group. Thank you so much to all the people who contribute to that. If you're not familiar with it, it starts with the idea exchange. So all of your ideas that you submit there in the idea exchange, anything that we haven't implemented over the last year, we put into the voting process, and then you determine from that voting process what the next thing will be that comes onto the Summit roadmap. So these are some of the top ones that are voted on. Again, this list isn't final, so not all of these may make it on the roadmap, but just to give you an idea of what's out there and what's being considered. The ability to display coverage dates, a range basically for e-journals and the Summit results. The ability to refine content type web resources. That content type in particular is a bit of a catch-all, and we know that there are things like online newspaper articles in there, so we're taking a look at how to improve that identification of content type for those resources. Looking at ways to improve open access in the way that you can interact with that and get to those links. Looking at how we can improve Summit over ALMA by adding collection discovery, which is available to ALMA and Primo customers currently, and things like the better display of serial publications in the search results. So showing those volume numbers or serial titles in a better way overall. So these are some of the things that we're looking at for 2022. And again, we will publish the updates as we get this list finalized and get it scheduled in specific months or releases on the Summit roadmap and the Knowledge Center. And of course, I'll review that information as we go forward with various webinars this year. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Amy.
Planning for 2022 with the early releases do coordinate with Summit for the most part, except for our first one going out on February 23rd. The following quarterly releases will be on May 11th, August 3rd, and November 2nd. As always, no downtime is expected. They will be rolling deploys, and release notes, full release notes will be posted to the Knowledge Center. for your perusal. As a reminder, or if you have not seen the emails that went out about this, we have reserved a monthly server maintenance window for the third Sunday of each month. This is to do just regular server maintenance per the vendors that supply our own software that support 360 and Entota. The third Sunday of each month, it's mostly overnight for most of the community. Is the time with the least traffic we found. Please sign up at the Ex Libris status page for alerts, and you should get one about 5 days in advance of that downtime. And it may be the case that there is no service interruption. It completely depends on what we are given for updates by our software vendors. But do check out the Ex Libris status page for that information. So what we're looking forward to in 2022 for searching and linking are a couple of definite new features and some more that are to be determined. The first is the eJournal portal, the ability to filter autocomplete suggestions, and also some new refinements for index enhanced direct linking in 360 Link. And as Brent noted, the NERS prioritization has not been finalized, but certainly will have a part in some of those features that he mentioned. But also, this year is the first year that 360 and Entota have their own categories within the Summon Ideas Exchange. So thanks to everyone who submitted ideas and voted on them. I hope to get some more momentum behind that as the year moves on and get a real sense of what's important to everyone. So the first feature that I'm going to describe is the filter autocomplete suggestions within the eJournal portal. This is going to actually deploy at the end of the month with the Q1 release. Currently, as you know, when you begin typing a search, suggestions are made by the system. However, those suggestions are pulled from the entire universe of KB titles with no sense of what might be relevant to your collection or applicable to your collection. So what's going to happen after the Q1 deploy is that those search suggestions will be filtered to subscribed titles within your library profile. So only the things that you license, own, or provide access to. This should eliminate any zero result searches and hopefully lower user frustration at getting a zero result search response and some frustration. Going out, this is something that requires processing that can't be done in real time. So going out with this release, we've had to architect a new Solar index that kind of pre-calculates what's available in the library profile in order to offer these suggestions. And that is going to happen once per week. So if you subscribe to a new title or if you unsubscribe from a title, you won't necessarily see an immediate change to the autocomplete suggestion. You're going to see that after the weekly index. And we'll see how that works going forward. It may be the case that we need to do that re-indexing more frequently, but for now, we're going to see how this works out. And again, this is coming out in the Q1 release at the end of the month. For Q2, we are doing some further refining to the Index Enhanced Direct Linking API. Obviously, this is in support of creating more accurate links to content that users want and quickly connecting them to that content. We have to do this every so often, simply because of the nature of the linking changes. So for example, document identifiers can change, what content that was at one time known as, by a certain identifier may not be on the native platform with that identifier. Or the API or the linking syntax that we need to be able to get to a provider may change over time. Perhaps a parameter is deprecated or one is added. You know, it's just kind of a natural progression and unfortunately an expected one due to the nature of linking. One thing I will say though is that we appreciate all the reports that you provide us. It does a couple of things. First, it lets us see patterns. So we can detect if a certain provider if we're seeing the same thing happen over and over, and maybe it's something our outreach group needs to talk to them about, or we need to get in touch, the R&D team needs to get in touch with them about, or if it's just a one-off. But it allows us to approach this in a more holistic way and address a broader set of issues at once. So as frustrating as broken links can be, we certainly understand that. Your continued communication about them really lets us address them in a operational way. And again, this is going to be coming out with the Q2 release. Some of the workflow refinements we're looking forward to delivering this year include displaying the MARC record availability at a database level, integrating the NISO recommended practices for automation, for KBART automation, and allowing upload of database order from an Excel compatible file. So displaying the MARC record availability is actually a NERS request that when we looked at it, and even before prioritization happened by the groups, my team was like, hey, you know what? We've got this information already. Exposing it is going to be pretty simple, and we've got people available right now who can do it. So happily, this is something that we're going to be able to deliver in Q2 even before prioritization is finalized. And what you see here is actually a screenshot from one of our environments where the code has been deployed to. And similar to summon coverage, you can see this MARC coverage. And this gives you a sense of how many titles within the database, or what percentage of titles in the database actually have a MARC record behind it, whether it's a CONSER or an LC record. This gives a sense of, or it is an indication of how many of the titles within that database are actually normalized within our KB. So you can see this at a glance, and it will also display on the database details page. So this, as I said, this was a kind of a serendipitous enhancement that we are able to really easily plug in, and you'll be able to view this in Q2. So in terms of integrating NISO recommended practices for KBART automation, the ultimate goal here is to expand auto holding support beyond eBook Central. When we delivered auto holding support with eBook Central way back when in 2014, this is before the recommended practices came out, right? Because the recommended practices was 2019. And it works great. It's a real time-saving tool, as I'm sure everyone who uses it can attest to. Unfortunately, our API is proprietary. It is not standards-based, and that is where we've kind of run into hiccups when working with providers, because they really want to keep to the standards. They want to reuse the code and the APIs that they're already using with products such as SFX and ALMA. So throughout the year, we're going to be working at integrating support for KBART and the recommended practices, and then being able to do the outreach and the testing and the operationalization, ooh, that's a long one, of actually getting the auto holdings communications going back and forth. So that's really it's really a long-term project and will span throughout the year, but it ultimately will be able to deliver auto holdings exchange with providers like Elsevier and Springer. Last but not least, one of the sure things that we're going to be able to deliver is kind of an evergreen enhancement request for the ability to upload a database order list or database prioritization list for 360 Link. On the left, you can see the current kind of state of affairs within the admin console. If you want to prioritize the databases, it's a drag and drop paradigm. And it can be a little unwieldy when we're talking about thousands of databases. A lot of folks have said, you know what, just let me download the list, I'll put it in the order I want, and then I'll upload it. So that's what we're going to be able to deliver in the second half of 2022, just as a way to streamline your work and make, alleviate some of the headache of the drag and drop paradigm within the admin console. In addition to kind of tackling KBART automation throughout the year, we've got a couple of major infrastructure projects going on. The first is that we are going to be migrating the Entoda assessment platform to the Oracle, excuse me, Oracle Analytics Server, the OAS platform. Oops. This is a advanced, sorry, I need to do that. The OAS platform is a little more advanced than what is currently available, includes things such as data visualization techniques and additional features for doing analytics. And this is going to apply to everyone. This isn't just folks with 360 Counter, et cetera. This is for everyone who gets their usage statistics in Entoda assessments. More information, training will be available as we near the delivery date of this, and that it's looking like mid-year right now. I don't want to promise H1, but certainly within early H2, this migration will be complete. The second migration project we've got going on is migrating the entire 360 and Entoda suite, all applications, both external and internal, to new database software. And this is just in keeping with our commitment to, security and safeguarding and up-to-date software within our data center, safeguarding your data, your privacy, et cetera. That is going to be happening also mid-year, and additional information will be available as we near that date. We'll be sure to keep everyone updated with that migration information. So that is what I want to share with you today. At this point, I'm going to turn it back over to Brent.
Upcoming webinars that we have and reviews. So with upcoming webinars that we have and activities coming up on April 25th and 26th, we've got our quarterly webinar about Summon and 360 and Entoda services called What's New with Summon. There are 3 different times you can join there. Hopefully one matches your needs and is during a time that is reasonable for you to attend. However, even if you're not able to attend any of these, sign up for at least one of them, because that does a few different things. One, it helps us understand exactly how interested in people are in these types of webinars, so that's important. But also, it means that you will get a link after the fact. You'll get a link to the recording so you can view it at your own time and pace. So again, please register for one of these, even if you're not sure you can make a specific time. In addition, we have a variety of other events that are being planned for the year. As I mentioned earlier, ELUNA is usually in May, and we'll be doing online sessions again for that this year. For IGELU, which happens in September, it's looking like that's going to be a hybrid event, which is scheduled again for September, and we'll get more details from both those organizations as we get closer. And I'm certainly excited about both being able to meet with you virtually and hopefully getting to meet with some of you in person as we move forward in this year. We also have some customer success webinars planned for the year. If you haven't attended those in the past, I think those are extremely beneficial. Usually customer success will pick a specific subject or topic that we want to do a deep dive on and provide you with information and training around how you can get the most out of your configuration of Summon 360 and Entoda services. We also have some Summon Product Working Group customer success sessions planned. We are in the process of planning those right now, and that's, again, another great place where you get to contribute ideas and topics and share those with the various customers out there who use Summon. So thank you so much for that contribution to the Summon community. But it's not limited to that. Your direct impact through NERS and the idea exchange is seen visibly in the roadmap items. So the ones that we had for last year were things like making the best bets show up even when there's not an exact match, so improving the matching for best bets. The ability to display all links, as I mentioned, that came directly from you, originally from the idea exchange and voted on for NERS. And for people who may not be familiar, the way the system works, anybody can go out and add things to the ID exchange. We here in product management review those on a periodic basis, and as we can, we add those to the development schedule or add them to the roadmap if they're significant enough. You can go out there and vote on those things in the ID exchange, but voting on them doesn't guarantee that they will get developed. That just shows us the level of interest, and we weigh the interest shown in those pieces on the piece of functionality itself. So there are certain things that may not be able to get a lot of votes because it's a specialized request or a regional request. We get that, and we will give those attention as well as the larger ones. But then each year we take those items from the ID exchange and then put them in the new enhancement request system where you vote on them, and anything that gets a top vote and also is something, you have a variety of development points, basically complexity points each year that we can spend. And those things that are voted on are committed to in the next 12 months on the roadmap. So a few of the things we got there, improvements for did you mean or auto-correcting spelling, improving the advanced search form by adding some exact search parameters and putting a whole bunch of different new fields, including ORCID on the advanced search page, and improving the ways that we link to the full text for PDFs. So as I mentioned, it doesn't have to go through NERS in order for it to be developed for the ID exchange. A few of the things that we completed in 2021 that were directly from the ID exchange was improving the way you manage database recommender tags and the ability to prioritize those databases in Database Recommender, making it so that you can view changes in Client Center, make that exportable, included some improvements around the publication date filter presets, and basically a lot of the tweaks and changes that we did to the user interface in December, some of those were informed by some great ideas on the ID exchange, making all the availability visible, for example, and the ability to exclude a facet value in the main facet pane. There's a lot of feedback on that more facet pane, and when we got rid of that and moved to the new paradigm of having everything in the primary pane, a lot of that was based on your input. And so if you'd like to do more or contribute more to ideas to the system, go out there to ideas.exlibrisgroup.com. Again, anybody can go out and add an idea. Don't worry about if you've got it fully formed or not. You put it out there. You can start a conversation around it. We can check in with that, and it helps inform what we do throughout the year. Next thing I want to do is just take a few minutes to remind you of some of the changes to the Support Center. Not so new anymore, but it is a new Support Center. We released it at the end of last year, at the beginning of the fourth quarter. If you haven't been out to access it yet, if you go to your old URL, you'll be redirected to the new one. If you want to access it directly, you can just go to support.proquest.com. You have a variety of things you can do there, like log in to check any outstanding items that you might have or create a new one. You can just go straight to the Submit a Case link there in the navigation toolbar at the top of the screen and submit a case directly. You can go find support by product. So looking at all those tiles and finding the appropriate product that you'd like to research. By going in there, you can find knowledge articles or other responses that folks have had to your specific item and hopefully find a solution for yourself. You can also search for those types of items using the search box at the top. And then finally, I think one of my favorite parts of the support portal is the ability to engage in chat. So click on that chat link, and during normal business hours for most of the world, you should be able to get a live representative to help you immediately and hopefully resolve your issue right in the moment. Larger issues that might need some data changes or content changes, things like that, may not be able to be resolved in a chat conversation. However, even if you do want to use that to start that process, it's a good way to get the ball rolling. Thanks everyone for taking time to attend today. As hopefully I've highlighted throughout the presentation, our products, Summon, 360, and Entoda are all successful because of you and your input. So thank you for taking the time today to attend and learn a little bit about what we have planned. And thank you for all of your contributions. If you think of something or have additional questions that I wasn't able to answer today, you can always reach me at Brent Cook. Brent.cook@xclarivate.com and Amy at amy.pemble@clarivate.com. If it's a support issue, you're always best off going through that support portal because they'll be able to track it and get your resolution quickly. Sometimes I know our inboxes can get a little bit full, and they're designed to respond to those quickly. And at the same time, I'm always happy to help. I'm always happy to answer questions, so feel free to reach out to me, and we really appreciate your time. Amy?
Yeah, again, thank you for your time today. I'm glad you could join us. And thank you for everyone who submitted ideas to the Idea Exchange. My team and I are really excited to be able to participate in that system. It gave us some great ideas. It gives us a sense of what the community is after. So please continue to do that, and we can all, continue to make 360 and coded services great. So thank you, and everyone have a great day.